Welcome to Newsroom, brought to you by Insurance Brokers Alliance. Newsroom is the place where we talk about the news from far and wide, from the point of view of our panel, who tonight is. Welcome back, Mary Jane Thomas,
Thank you.
Crown lawyer and local solicitor. Am I correct in saying that?
That's true.
And Tom Conroy, broadcaster.
Also correct.
Absolutely.
Well done.
And the boss. Lots of things been going on. Of course, the thing we probably need to talk about first is the local body elections. Interesting results. Our own city council, we saw some new faces there, Tom. What sort of trend do you think there is?
I think you should start first, Bill.
You think I should?
You personally stood up to be counted.
I did.
And only just missed out on the
I didn't miss out by too much.
So what was your feeling about the campaign and the process and the result?
It was very interesting to be involved in it, Tom. And for those of you who don't know, I stood for Environment Southland, which is the Southland Regional Council. So thank you very much to all those who voted for me. And the other very good candidates, I've got to say, were standing. I was looking through the CVs and you know the things the candidates wrote there. I was pretty impressed, actually. I thought we were pretty well served in that area on that council.
Very sporting of you.
Well, thank you, Tom. And there was, as I said, there was a good raft of candidates, a lot of competition, and I think there's got to be in democracy. So I was disappointed to miss out by 700 votes.
Would you do something different in your campaigning?
I think next time probably I might advertise a bit more. I might make an advert for the station here, it always helps, and perhaps be a little bit more, concise is the wrong word, a bit more detail in my policies. And, yeah.
And look for a few skeletons in closets of your competitors?
I'm going to avoid that, Tom. I'm going to avoid it.
You've got to make sure you even got skeletons in your own closet, of course.
That's right, yeah.
Who hasn't?
Of course, there's been a lot of talk about that up north. We'll come to that later. City Council. How do you feel about that, Mary Jane?
I know it's awful to say. See, I find it incredibly boring and I don't care. And I know that I've watched... No, I don't...
You appear to be in the majority going by the number of people that voted.
Don't care. And I know there are a minority of people who care desperately. I just find it interminably boring. There we go. Right. So I am along with...
Do you protest when you pay your rates, though, and say they shouldn't be spending the money in this way?
Oh, no, I don't really care, really.
Right.
Okay. You know...
You want somebody else to do it and you're
I
not
don't
worried
understand
about it.
people who get upset about wheelie bins. I've never understood it. I think they've got great lives. If you can get passionate about wheelie bins, I think you've got a great life because there's not much else that you're worried about.
It's probably true.
No, but honestly, I watch this program all the time. People are passionate about it. I don't care.
Yeah. And potholes and where plants grow on the road. And yep, they're very keen about those things. But you're quite right. A lot of people have that approach where they don't actually care anymore because of the very poor turnout.
Maybe they think they can't change things,
nationwide, not just here, nationwide.
I don't think we have a general view. I think what people do is this. They go in and they're going to change things. What I've found in life is people don't. They go in and they're going to change it and they're going to buck, and at the end of the day they just do what they have to do to get on more committees to make more money, because at the end of the day I think it's all about that, really.
Well, perhaps they didn't really understand the issues before they went on there, and when they did understand the issues, say, well, perhaps this is the way the council's reacting.
No, I just think they realise that most people will toe the line to their own personal benefit.
And it's hard to make change. Look at the so-called, the flamboyant ones like the Pam Corkeries, who, criticised the government constantly and then decided to run and then lasted a term and couldn't achieve anything.
Did she last a term?
I think she lasted one term.
Or did she pull out halfway through?
There,
well, Bob the Builder did.
But typical of people who are very critical and then they get in there and because of the processes, rather than sticking with it and trying to break it down, they just give up.
Well, basically, like at parliamentary level, you're required to do an apprenticeship. Sit there, say nothing, do as you're told, put your hand up when we say vote, and do that for a couple of terms, then you may get into a position where you can have some influence. And some people maybe aren't prepared to do that.
Well, that time comes around, you've lost your fire in your belly.
And you become one of them.
Right.
Yeah. Does this election here, there's our figures there for Invercargill City Council, does this reflect a protest against the inner city upgrade? Because we've got 2 or 3 candidates on there who they came out and said they're against it. Do you think so?
Well, they certainly, I think they need to rethink, regardless of what the previous vote was, because this is a new collective of people and it's not far enough down the track to make a difference. Have a rethink. A couple of interesting things for me in this is the evenness of votes. The top guy, Darren, got 9-8, and only 2,000 between 1 and 12, very even. The days have gone when Dr., whose name eludes me, the lady doctor who was... Yep, we've forgotten.
Okay, we've all forgotten.
But anyway, she used to get 12,000 votes and the bottom person would get 1,500.
Yes.
So that big difference in scale has gone. There's a lot more even spread. Even the last person got 2,500 votes. So by my calculations, everyone got their deposit back. There have been times in the past where the last few have got maybe a couple of hundred each. So it's been spread out. Also, it was a great year if you were a female to run, because 2 women dropped off and there were only 3 women candidates. I know men and women across the whole community have said, well, we don't want a whole bunch of 12 guys sitting there
and
doing
people
nothing.
will vote
We've
that
got to
way.
have some good women in
Oh,
there.
so Karen
A couple of
got
women.
second because she was a woman.
She got second because
Good
she
on
was
you,
a woman,
Tom.
but no, but she got on
Great
because
on you.
she was
got
confident.
9,715 votes, which was
Big
only
chunk.
100 behind Darren, but she got that. She was lucky because she was a girl.
Not all of it. Some of it is due to that.
Oh.
Absolutely true. Of course it is. And I can tell you from anecdotal evidence that people did not want 12 men on there. So they will vote for
Oh,
women.
it's a great anecdotal
It's
evidence
true.
thing. She probably got
It's
more
true.
because she was a doolie, I would have thought.
That would do it. All those extra lists, they all help, but not picking on her. But I think people thought we can't have 12 guys. And there are
Well,
only
we've
3
only
women
got
candidates.
2 women.
And there are only 3 candidates. So 2 are always going to get on. So it was a good year to run. You should run if you were interested, but you're not. It was a good chance.
Oh, good, because I would have gone on as obnoxious as I am. I'm a woman, I would have got on. I should have put my mother up. We
Would have
could,
been half
we
the
could use
votes,
the income.
just like
Mum,
that.
Next year,
It's
we're
a fact
in
of
there.
life that people do not want one-gender councils.
Oh, rubbish. There's been 1 gender councils and running the country for blooming generations.
But not in the last few generations. I think we've
dear
moved on. It's a
Lord.
good
Okay.
evolution.
Yeah, well, it is. It is good. It is
it
good.
is good,
I think that
absolutely.
I actually
You could
think
have been
that just
transgender, perhaps, and you would have got on the environment. That's what we'll do next
It's
year.
happened before.
Let
It
me
is.
be your campaign manager. We'll put you in a skirt and you'll get on.
Carmen got on, didn't she?
Carmen got on.
in the
That's right.
council.
No,
Yeah.
it's
And
all
in
right.
Parliament?
Next year I'll get you on. There we
Yeah,
go.
you
We're on our
reckon?
campaign.
Good
Yep.
team.
Yep.
Somebody might know. You never. But things not going well in Auckland. Things not going well in Auckland for Len.
An auditor.
But I think, everybody, of course, is throwing accusations in all directions and accusing the other team of there being, an agenda there to try and bring them down. All sorts of things going on. Commentators are now saying things like it seems to be backfiring on the other side, if there ever was another side. To me, the whole Len Brown scandal, as it's called, is something which has got an enormous amount of news time for a very sad.
It's good to have a scandal named after you, isn't it?
That's right.
It lasts longer than any other achievement that he probably has made.
Sex is always interesting because local bodies is really boring. So I suppose you get sex into it. It's slightly interesting, isn't it?
What I can't understand is they're now going over his accounts to make sure he didn't spend any money on the other woman, as it were. Why is there an interest in, because there's another woman involved, it's just a grievous tragedy.
He had the problem before with the credit cards, didn't he?
Yeah, he did have a bit of one.
So
there, I
that's
think,
why.
Yeah.
And also, I think there's a couple of issues here. Let's take the fact that people have affairs. That happens.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's a bit of a Tiger Woods scenario where there was painted into the election the big family man, gather the wife and kids around and sell, and then 5 minutes later he found out that wasn't actually the picture of his real life. And the second one was, is he indeed used his position to help her inappropriately or spend ratepayer money inappropriately? So did he get her that job at the museum? We don't know whether that's true or not.
Apparently that was before they had sex.
But that's not the start of a relationship always, is it? It's not
Oh,
necessarily the first
Really?
thing that
Okay.
happens. You can still have a relationship with someone without having sex.
Really?
It's possible, Mary
I
Jane?
watched
It is
somebody
possible.
cross-examine in a case in the employment court for a lot of time about exactly that point.
And successfully, or?
No, it was pretty sad, really. But that was the point. When were you
Right.
in a relationship?
And what?
Or call me old-fashioned, I don't know, but I would have thought, I don't know. No.
Perhaps a lot of people are feeling really aggrieved, the ratepayers in Auckland, that they didn't know about this before the election.
Yeah, but if the guys were going to put the boot into him, it's just so dumb. I completely agree. If I'd been on the other side, I would have leaked it. If they were really trying to win it, leak it beforehand.
Well, that's what you think.
What's the point of bringing out afterwards? It's just stupid. She's hopeless. Over her. Look, if you want to have an affair with a married man, by all means do it. 1, he's not going to leave his wife. 2, he's going to end up dropping you. And 3, you're going to look cheap. For goodness sake.
But in the interim, you might get some assistance with your career.
Yeah, but good on her if she wants to do that. But I think most women would say, we're so over it. If you want to sleep with a 60-year-old, it's icky anyway, isn't it, really? If you want to do, sorry, no, it's not offensive to the 60-year-old men, but look, this, come on. But then don't cry about it later. She clearly found the man attractive. Good on her. She had good times. They've probably had a few whatever.
Yeah.
Move on. honey. Do you know what I mean? He was never going to leave you.
Oh, the whole thing, reading it, the whole thing seems incredibly, it seems to go from bizarre to me.
But it was 2 years worth.
Oh,
this isn't something, this isn't
but
a
they
1
had
week
that-
fling.
Oh, it wasn't. It wasn't
2 years.
just about that. It was a connection, clearly.
Absolutely. They were building a relationship over a period of time.
Well, let's move on from that and let's talk about
No,
another.
we haven't finished yet.
Well,
We're going to
right.
decide whether this is enough to bring him down, and what will
right.
they need to find
Yes.
in order to bring him down. Nothing brought Bill Clinton down, did
No.
it? There are predecessors.
They can't bring him down anyway. The only way you can get rid of a mayor, you're right, he could have had sex with the entire Auckland cheerleading squad and it's not going to bring him down. They have a cheerleading squad? It sounded good, didn't it?
Yep.
You know, those awful girls that, you know.
Oh, not so
anyway,
awful. Yep.
No. Oh,
Carry
sorry,
on.
it's rugby. Anyway, no, I didn't mean. They're lovely.
Yep.
I think it's good to go to rugby
talented.
and watch rugby and see cheerleaders. I just
agree.
fills my heart with, you know. But anyway, I don't think it would bring him down at all. Because I just don't think people care.
Well, I think those
What
factors
if he
we
went
discussed.
out and spent money on his mistress? What's the difference between him going out for dinner and spending money to buy his wife dinner? How is that misspending? We don't have a moral code. If you're able to buy...
What about if he got her a job? If he got her a job.
He didn't get her a job. There's no suggestion at all that he got her a job. Well, so what? If you fancy somebody and you haven't had sex with them, why can't you give them a CV? I bet half the people
And what about once
in
you've
the
had
world
sex
have had...
with them?
Well, I'm sure that half the people in the world have had CVs, have had references from people, from men that fancy them. That's the way the world works.
I think it would have been fairer if we had all known about it before the election. The people can make their judgment on face value.
Yeah.
And I go back to that Tiger Woods situation where people were offended by the fact that he portrayed this
But
great
does
family
anybody
situation.
believe that, Tom? You're so naive. I don't believe... Look, they trot the loving wife out and the kids out. Does anybody believe that rubbish?
Yes, obviously they do.
Well, do they really? It's just so stupid. I mean, the wife pops out.
And
oh,
if they didn't
honey,
believe it, if
and they
it wasn't-
sit on the couch and they hold hand and they look loving at each other. I always think as soon as the camera's finished, she's probably telling that he's a boring and
If
they
it
don't
wa-
want to split half the money. I
If
mean,
it wasn't influential, though, why would they keep doing it? Obviously, it has some impact, doesn't it?
Yeah.
clearly.
Yep, obviously. But you probably, in my opinion, I think he will
Yeah.
ride this out unless there is some credit
Money
card
would bring him
misgivings.
down.
It's only
money
be
to
some-
me, if
yeah.
they find money, they're looking for it. Money inappropriately spent, or where if they could put their finger on it and say, well, you know, this was not his to use or his to take, or been used inappropriately. That is
But
the
that'll
only
have
thing.
nothing to do with whether he was spending it on his mistress or not.
No.
You may actually, that's your second good point in this show, which is good, is the fact that I hadn't thought of it like that. I mean, there aren't any rules
admitting
about
Should
who
I
you
go
spend the
now?
money on.
No.
You can spend it on your
Well,
nieces or
okay.
cousin, or if you're allowed entertainment
Who
for
cares?
somebody,
Exactly.
Yep. Could be a friend. There's a little bit of a, I see there's a report today, a bit of a double standard in that 2 security guards after hours had sex in a toilet, consensual sex, and have been stood down from their job. I think this was regarding that. I don't know yet, but they have,
Yep.
and they're saying, well, there's a double standard about here's 2
Why
people who
can't
had
you have
sex.
sex on the job?
I don't know.
Is it in the the employment law? Love it. Are you not allowed to have sex on the job?
I
Is it
don't
a
know.
Serious
No,
misconduct?
no, I think
Is it
they
having
use.
sex with the other employee or having sex whilst you're meant to be working?
No, I think after hours used after hours access, which they had
Oh,
because the
there- yeah,
went
okay.
to somewhere and then had a toilet. But
yeah,
how's that any
okay.
different from Len Brown going in late at night and inviting his partner onto his into his room? What's the difference? That's where there could be a
Okay.
little bit of a double
No,
standard.
there's a big difference, but I'll explain it to you later.
Oh,
Right.
well, I want to know. Give us a clue as to how it's any
Well, from
different.
an employment perspective, it's completely different. One, Len Brown's not an employee.
Of the city council? Of
Well,
course he
I
is.
know, but he's allowed to. And a councillor should be allowed to have sex wherever they like on the council premises. Does anybody
At any time of
care?
day?
Well, as long as nobody sees them, who cares? Do we really care? Whereas if I'm paying somebody to work, I would expect them not to be having sexual intercourse at the time.
Okay, but what
I
about
think it's quite
after the designated hours of
I
work?
don't care what they do. They should. It's probably make them a better employee.
Unique.
Unique.
Well,
Unique.
What I mean,
Excellent.
Indeed.
No,
Indeed.
I can see that being
Let's
an
now
argument.
talk about, while we're speaking about legal things, another case which has come up, and Mary Jane, perhaps you can enlighten us a bit on this. Now, of course, with John Banks, he hasn't gone to court. What he's done is he's been committed for trial, is that right? Can you explain to our viewers what the difference is there?
all that it means is that there's been basically found a case to answer. So he's
Right.
gone on to that next level. Yep.
So now he can be prosecuted. So normally you just can't go and prosecute somebody and
Well, it's a
the police
private prosecution.
Okay.
Normally you've got steps to go through.
Right.
So they've gone to the next level at which a district court judge has decided that there is, it will go to the next level.
And
Yep.
can a private prosecution end up in a jail sentence?
Mm.
Okay, so the same rules apply as
A
if the
private,
police.
yeah, a
in-
private
okay,
prosecution is exactly the same.
Right.
Yep.
can. Right.
So I didn't know you could actually do that on a
Yes, you
random
can.
basis, anytime you like. So could I prosecute David Bain, for instance?
Yes, you could.
Oh, okay.
No, you can't because he's been acquitted.
Oh, okay, so it has to be someone who
Yeah.
hasn't
If
had a
there's a
trial of any
random
kind.
murderer out there that you don't think has been, you could.
Okay, okay, I'll just note that.
Interesting. Right. So
You
now,
can't get the death penalty, however, Talman. I know you'd be traumatised about that, but yes, you could.
Forget the.
Right.
They could get the trial transferred to
so
Singapore.
now he's going to come up before the before the court, and will it be a jury court or a judge?
Well, the starting point. Well, the starting point is he's got a challenge to that court, the district court's decision by
Okay.
way of judicial reviews. That's the next hurdle that the prosecution has to get through.
Okay.
So the High Court judge is going to be asked to determine whether or not there were flaws or not in the decision of the district court.
Okay.
And then once it gets through that or not, the next decision will be made. And I think what he's charged with would allow an election to go in front of a jury trial.
Okay. Right.
And if found guilty, can he maintain a public office of any kind?
If the charges that he faces have a term of imprisonment of more than 2 years or more, and he were found guilty of that, then he couldn't.
Even if the judge gave him an alternate to the 2 years?
So the issue is the seriousness of the offence is judged on the maximum sentence
Okay.
that you can get. So if under electoral law, and I've got it here, a parliamentary seat is vacated if an MP is convicted of a crime punishable by imprisonment for a term of 2 years or more.
Irrespective of the crime?
Yes.
Okay,
So
so the
once
fact that
you've
it's an
got a-
electoral crime is not a special case, it's just a
Under
case.
if the crime is punishable by imprisonment for a term of 2 years or more, and I think this one is.
So,
If you,
I can't argue with you on that one.
No, I
No,
think it
too.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where.
so if he were to be convicted, then he'd be in a serious position with his seat.
I should have checked that actually. I'm not sure. I don't. But only if the crime that he's charged with, or would be charged with, or whatever, is punishable by an imprisonment for a term of 2 years or more.
Oh, it's interesting. So we wait and see. We wait for the judicial
We've got to get
review.
through the judicial review, and then I think has the Solicitor General said he's taking up it yet? No, we don't know.
He was looking at it.
And then the issue will be who runs it, the private prosecutor or the Crown, and then of course you've still got your trial.
How
right.
can the Crown take it back once the private prosecution has been
Oh, the Crown.
activated?
Yeah, well,
Can they change their mind and say, okay, we'll take it back now because you've
I
proved it?
think what's been indicated when I was reading it is that the guy who's taken the private prosecution would be quite comfortable for the Crown to
McCready.
take it.
Okay.
I'm not sure whether if you said no, naff off, you could take it off him.
So if I compiled a case against someone I thought was a criminal
Yeah.
as a private prosecution, I think this is a really good case. Could I come to you as a Crown prosecutor and say, look, can you look at my evidence? You know, before we've even gone to court, I think there's a case to be
No,
had.
because
and
I'd
you
say
can
go
decide-
to the police.
Okay.
As a Crown solicitor, it's not my role to lay charges. It's the police. So I'd say go to the police. It's their decision.
Right.
I only come in at a later stage. It's not my
So
job.
they don't consult you as to the chances of
Oh,
that
they
being
do
successful?
on like if I had often they do for murders, a lot of the sexual stuff they would come to me, but I'm only giving advice. The decision whether to lay the charge is the police's, and then once the police have laid the charge, I look at it again, and I can say no, I'm not doing that. Do you know what I mean? There's actually a series of checks and balances. So you've got your cops, then I start again, and anything that I prosecute as a Crown solicitor, I've got to look at it again.
Right.
And I've got to say, do I think this should proceed? And I've got a whole lot of rules I've got to look at. Do you know what I mean? So so you've really got to go through the police, then they've got to get through me, then they've got to get through a judge, because the judge can still throw it out if there's insufficient evidence. And then only then does it get to a jury trial.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? So there's actually quite a lot of steps you can go through.
And this one here, there's quite a way to go.
Yes, there is.
Is there a chance that he could string this out? His lawyers could string this out.
String it out.
String it out by delaying with the proceedings until the next elections.
Stringing it out.
But you could defer the court date
No,
and that.
You're always great if you're not the one that's getting prosecuted. I can't wait one day for you to. I hope one of you two, not for anything
No,
serious.
I'm asking the question.
No, not serious, but I mean, string it out.
Can you?
No, you're entitled to take whatever defensive
So who sets
action
the
at any
time?
stage.
Okay, who sets the timetable about when I have to appear?
Right, well what'll happen is there'll be a judicial review proceedings that'll be filed, and they'll go out in front of the High Court, and the High Court will say, right, this is the timetabling.
Could
Put
we
your
expect
submissions
a
in.
month to 2 months to take that? Or could it be
Yeah.
quicker?
Well, it depends on what the workload of the High Court is, but I'm imagining in this case, when it's a high profile case, the High Court would want to get it on sooner rather than later.
Okay, right.
Right.
Oh, a very satisfactory place to stop. Stay with us. We're going to take a break, but we'll be back. See you soon. Welcome back to Newsroom. Now, we've seen the New Zealand First Party having their conference in Christchurch in the racecourse time. I see there, Winston, ex-racing minister. That's what we've been expecting. Winston's actually come out with a couple of very interesting ideas. Again. One of them being that we should, something I've certainly never thought of, he wants to coagulate, for want of a better word, all the Kiwi Saver funds into one fund he would call the Kiwi Fund. His reasoning is that the managers of these funds are clipping the ticket to the tune, he says, so far of $325 million. I see that the media reported it as $22 billion after 30 years. I'm wondering if there should have been a decimal point in there, but however.
No, I think that's a forecast. That's what I read.
A forecast, okay.
Yeah,
Definitely
for a
$22
long time,
billion.
30 million.
I mean, are these funds better managed like this, or in the way that they are, or do you think this would be beneficial? The government super fund certainly works this way.
Well, what he's implying is that if it was done in-house, that those monies that were going offshore through the ticket clipping process would be kept in the pool to be spent on things in New Zealand. Like in his case, buying back assets. Not saying that that's necessarily the only thing you could spend it on, but it would save it leaving. You know what he's like. He likes to keep things onshore in New Zealand hands. So that's quite consistent with that. And I see it's part of the deal if you want him on your side after the election. So people better get used to it. It's one of his trading tools.
Pretty severe move, Mary Jane.
I refuse to talk about him.
You won't talk about him?
I refuse to give the man any media. He doesn't deserve it. He's only got people over 100 that vote for him, and Tom, and I'm just making a protest now.
You're going to be
You
completely
don't care
silent.
whether his idea is brilliant or not?
No, I'm just...
Oh, well, Bill, you and I'll carry on.
Well, yes. Now, the other one, Tom, that he
please,
is thinking that we should set up a government insurance company.
Again, put it back, you mean?
Yeah.
For similar reasons, in that it was be better controlled because of the disappointment some have had over getting claims since the earthquake. They've been poorly managed, and there's quite a bit of an outcry. And they're saying by having a central body of having control over it, it would have been better managed. That one's a little less clear. I think the Kiwi one, fund idea is a very good one. I don't know about the state insurance one. I don't know the machinations of the insurance industry well enough to say whether that would work. But it worked for many years, didn't it, in state insurance? It was supposedly successful.
They carried most of the insurance in New Zealand for a long time.
That's right, yeah. So, and we're a very small country, and have control over some critical financial transactions, I think, is important. If, you know, in the case of that Kiwi, if it is going offshore at the rate they suggest, then yes, I would like $300 million spent on New Zealand internally rather than give it away. So I think there's logic there.
Drifting from Winston onto insurance, Mary Jane, maybe we'll talk about that.
You're back on now.
Oh, you're back on there. Christchurch.
Welcome back to the show.
A lot of the Christchurch people, there seems to be a number of them still suffering up there, and we've seen one or two news articles on it where they just don't seem to be making any progress with their insurance companies. Is this inevitable, or is it something that should just be hurried up?
Have you ever tried to fight with an insurance company?
It's pretty difficult.
They're awful.
Yes.
I'm sorry. It's like banks. I hate banks and I hate insurance companies. Banks and insurance companies are really good when they want you to give them their money. Give us your money. Da, da, da. As soon as anything goes wrong. So I've fought with insurers as a lawyer, and it's disgraceful. I just can't believe why we're sitting around accepting that people are still, how many years later, I think it's just
3 years.
absolutely disgraceful. And they do this fine print and they'll go through line by line, and it's just, but they've got all the money. You've got to remember that a lot of people fight because they wear people down. Like, honestly, my mother, God, I love my mother, but every time those ads come on, when those awful, nothing going to slow us down,
Oh, yes.
we almost throw things at the television. It really irritates me.
Right.
But I don't know why. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm surprised somebody hasn't done.
To me, one of the most disgraceful things that happened in the whole lot was there was Three did an article, I think it might have been on Campbell Live, just a few days ago, where now it was Steve Gurney who spoke out, Coast to Coast man, and he mentioned that when it became apparent it was going to go on TV and be broadcast nationwide, they immediately came back with double the offer. Now, to me, that's despicable. I don't know what you call it, but it looks like trying to buy the guy off to me.
People just need to realise that, and again, I put banks in the same thing.
Yeah.
If you think that these organisations are out to help you, they're not. And people can do as much advertising as they like. Banks and insurers are generally there to bring profit in. And at the end of the day, in my experience as a lawyer and as a human being, they will, at the end of the day, do everything they can.
So you think they're a necessary evil?
Well, I think it's despicable what's happened in Christchurch.
Oh,
and I've got no love for Cantabrians, but I mean, it's just obscene. I'm not sure whether I want to, nationalise insurance. Sounds
a good idea.
Sounds stupid to me, but I mean.
It was an extraordinary situation, and the only question I asked, because the media always pick up on the worst stories, is how many of those have been settled admirably, if there have been quite a few. There might have been a lot. I just don't know what that proportion is. But there are obviously some cases, and one you've just suggested, which is unacceptable, and there's probably many, many more if there's still people sitting there 2 or 3 years waiting.
There's no doubt that there will be people that are having it on.
And they've
that
got
are
to be careful
trying to get more. So let's assume that there will be a percentage of people that always try to get more than they're due. But my reading of it is it can't be that many. Do you know what I mean? There's always going to be people that are, their house is worth 100, they want 1 million. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's the company's
do you
job
care
to
about them?
that.
I don't care about them, fine, have a shot. But there appear to be a lot of people that are genuinely
most people are, aren't they?
feeling as if they've been shafted.
Mum and Dad who perhaps retired and their house, which they're going to live in for the rest of their lives, has been completely wrecked, and they never did anybody any evil all their life, and now they're put out of the house, they're offered half the money or whatever it is, you can't help but get mad on their behalf.
Yeah, I do, and it takes a lot to get me mad on people's behalf, because normally people are, I'm a cynic, but there's something gone wrong.
I agree with you there. They do themselves out of business though, by high exorbitant rates and making it difficult to get payouts. There is a lot of businesses, I work for a corporate, who is principally self-insured. Because by saving money and setting it aside and putting it in an account, it was actually easier. A lot of people are going to start cutting there. There's that discussion is going around. We're going, okay, on the likelihood of a tsunami, right? Let's say we'll cut our insurance and we'll put X amount in a bank account.
That's right.
Honestly, there's a lot of people that are doing.
Was it the
Catholics that decided not to do the buildings, or was it the Anglicans? The Protestants don't have buildings anyway, do they? It was a good decision. They said, blow it. What we're going to do is we will not insure for this. I quite rate that, because we all got carried away with buildings and that.
$50,000 a year insurance, whatever it costs me. I don't make $50,000 worth of claims, and if you add that up over 10 years,
it's a lot of money.
I could rebuild the station with that kind of money.
And you're right, and why not put the money away and then get interest on it and go for a blinking holiday or something?
You know what happens though, the day you cancel your insurance?
Oh, you screw, it's awful, I know.
Off the road.
Yeah, but there's got to be a level at which
It's got to be balanced.
You
absolutely.
know, because at the moment, businesses pay exorbitant amounts of money for insurance.
It is.
So either that will go for a very high premium, not premium.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Excess.
Yeah, excess.
Extremely high excess.
But then you've still got to, if you're going to do that, you've got to put the money away. How much can I afford to lose and not go bankrupt? And I think good businesses go, you say, okay, right, I'm going to have it. It's a bit of a chance. But I think as long as you put that money away and don't spend it.
That's the key thing.
You know what I mean? So you put it away and you feed it there and you build up an amount of money that even if the worst comes to worst, you've got it there. And like I said, you're going to get interest in that. And I'd much rather have the bank and get interest than paying insurers who I have to fight with anyway to get it. It's just so tiresome.
Absolutely. So all you folk in Christchurch haven't been paid out yet, you certainly have our sympathy and we wish you luck and hope that it gets solved pretty soon. Yeah. Now, a bit of sport. A bit of sport. Money seems to be getting handed out willy-nilly. $5 million to the America's Cup team, Mary Jane, with no strings attached. I'm just wondering, who calls it sport, did you say? Yeah. $5 million with no strings attached. But they quite rightly said, well, if we don't put this money in
I don't care. Let them go. They're not good enough. They lost. I'm over it. Look, honestly, I said... And I've got to admit, I started refusing to watch the America's Cup because I thought it was a whole lot of rich people. And I don't like rich people, you know me. Right. And then one morning, Dad and I started watching it and I got hooked. It's awful. Yeah. Awful. And we were just watching it and Dad and I would watch it and then I ended up yelling at the TV and then I went through that awful, you know, when we lost, and then I went through blanket. Do you know what I mean? Like the last World Cups, don't talk to me about it. And I just would go into my office and say, I don't care.
Right.
Tell me when we've won.
It's
awful, but at the end of the day, we lost. They gave them $30 million. We've been cutting legal aid. We've cut millions of dollars. I don't care anymore. They weren't good enough. If they want to do the America's Cup, spend their own money.
There's a couple of interesting media aspects to this.
Yes.
Is that how we always talk about the strength of social media and tweeting and Facebook. TV is still by far the most influential factor because TV 1 and 3 between them fooled almost the entire country, barring a few of us.
Yes.
That was some kind of international sport. I watched 2 minutes of it. It's some sort of international sport of some standing, no standing whatsoever.
But you get hopped. Did you not get hopped into it?
No, I did not, because it was a complete rort. It was a complete rort, and I couldn't believe how many reasonably intelligent people.
And it was cool, and you thought, are they going to tip?
My money sailing away.
Australia. You hated that little yappy Australia, and then I liked the Australian.
Yeah, we're supposed to be racing America.
And then Dawson's on the boat, and you think, good on you, and you're old, and you can do it. And then
it was just absolute nonsense. And I was very pleased. We played part of it tonight. Joseph Romano is one of the few national journalists who got stuck into them and gave people some facts about this race.
Yes.
That it's for the first 130 years, it's completely meaningless. Yeah. You had to build your boat, sail it to the States, and then match race. There was no chance of ever winning it. Exactly. There were only 4 teams, 2 of them were hopeless, 1 turned up late. And nobody in the world watched but us.
No, you're actually being quite arrogant now, because
I'm being factually correct.
No, you're arrogant.
You tell me.
A significant proportion of us got interested.
No, I'm saying I agree.
That's fine. But
because you were stupid enough to fall for the marketing hype.
No,
it was rubbish. Nobody watched it outside of New Zealand. No, but the whole point of putting money into it is because of this great publicity campaign. They had to pay someone to play it on TV in America.
Exactly.
I'm saying if you actually started watching it, it's like the pokies or something. It got quite addictive.
It's a really good example. It's right. Yeah.
There will be a lot of people out there that play the pokies like me. That's why I can't do them. It's addictive. I'm not going to apologise for that. But what I'm saying is enough's enough. We didn't win.
Expensive addiction.
I don't want to spend any more money on it. Are we agreed?
I don't spend any money on the first place.
Well,
let alone
the argument then that brings all this business to Auckland, the boat building industry.
Oh, well, we know that's rubbish. We don't.
And the money that people are getting huge salaries for losing for year after year.
Isn't it great that you could really lose 8 in a row and then come home and get $1 million to the only time. Get that job. And then we feel sorry for him.
I never felt sorry for him at all.
I kind of felt sorry for him.
I didn't feel sorry for him at all.
He's a millionaire. there, and I felt sorry for him.
There you go. And you
he's
don't like rich
Mandy,
people.
And he's married to Mandy. I mean, they got the life, the kids will be perfect.
Good on him for completely fooling
And
everyone.
And they were sitting there feeling sorry for him because he lost 8 in a
Not
row.
we, you were, I wasn't.
Some people did.
But the extraordinary salaries that they got paid, if you're a basketball person, you'd be furious because they lost their Spark funding and they had to scrummage around to get some team to
I
the
actually think
international. That sport's played by about 400 million people more than ever go sailing, ever.
Right, I think that impact on the rest of sport in New Zealand, all those young people coming through, has been the worst aspect of the whole thing.
Well,
It
how
really
many kids
has.
do you know? I know there's some kids that let's go yachting.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any
I
kids.
don't know any kids
Well,
to do that.
No, let's go and buy a boat.
I mean, there is a
and go
good,
and
strong
sail.
yachting fraternity.
Oh,
but they
yeah,
sail
absolutely.
around
They've
little
got their
boats.
place, but it's
Yeah,
not at the
that's
top
right.
of the mountain
Yeah.
with all the money.
That's right.
The more people watch around the world, more people watch a midweek ITM Cup match in the world than they watch this yachting. If the government turned around and said, "Oh, good on you, Otago, you got 22,000 people to a Shield game, have $1 million," there'd be an absolute outcry.
They could
Absolutely.
pay for the stadium though, Tom. Think
They
about
could have
it,
paid
though.
for they could have put that money into the stadium as an investment for the
Couldn't they?
future. Absolutely. Instead
So-
of do a plastic boat that goes around too slow.
So my sort of feeling here that we don't agree with the $5 million
We don't agree with one single
given to
red
it.
cent being given to them. Unbelievable rort.
Yeah, well,
Great,
don't come
but
down south asking for it.
But a great sales campaign.
Yeah.
In that by staging it the way they did.
Yes.
And for me, the plus is that TV is still so influential. It can fool the nation.
Yes.
Apart from one or two of us.
And San Franciscans, as far
Yeah.
as they were concerned, I was reading about it, the sooner it was gone, the better.
They didn't even know
They
that,
did
did
not
they?
like it being put on their rates bill, and they didn't go to watch.
Well, they did because they got free lunch to go.
Oh, they got some free lunch.
Larry had
There was
his
more
company there and they gave them a free lunch to watch.
Kiwis there than anybody else.
Unbelievable.
Well, there you go.
But sadly, it's the turnaround too, because it was quite clear. My understanding of John Key's statement,
Yeah.
and this is a bit that angers me. He said, "Well, put $40 million if you win for the defence, but if you lose, hard luck."
Right.
As soon as they got it, within 5 minutes, the minister's standing up there at a victory
Yeah, that's because
parade
we
when they
felt
lost.
sorry for Dean Barker and everybody wanted to kind of make him feel better. Because that dirty, stinking Australian bet us.
Yeah, so I wonder if it had been the Americans would have been the same reaction.
I
There
quite
was
rate
none
that.
involved.
Did you rate that Australian? I don't like Australians like this. I know that I don't like anybody.
Yeah.
I generally don't like Australians, but gosh, I rated him.
What about Australians that live in Christchurch? What is that combination?
It was school teachers.
It was a school teacher. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
School
We got the
teachers,
combination.
oh dear. Let's move out. Let's go a bit international. Now, I was reading an article by...
Because America's Cup is not international.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much, Bill. Well
That's
done.
all right, yeah.
That's even better. Excellent.
I missed the point completely. I was reading a bit by Sean Plunkett, who had quite a different view, actually, on the Greenpeace people have been locked up in Russia. Right. And it was rather interesting. He said the Arctic activists, the heading of the article, which was run by staffers, Arctic activists, that's quite hard to say, knew the risks.
Oh, he's taken my... That's what I was going to say.
So what
and
are you
I
gonna
didn't
say?
read it.
What are you going
All
to
right.
say?
Tell us what you're going to say about
What
it.
did they expect to happen? I'm over it. You go to Russia. You go onto their oil rig. Of course they were going to get arrested. Go to North Korea next time, they'll shoot you. Honestly, I'm over it. Look, don't get me wrong, good on them. If they feel strong enough about things to go on a boat and go to Russia and get on an oil rig, good on them. But I'm sorry, what did they think was going to happen? It's Putin, for goodness sake. They're in Russia.
Yep.
Or in Auckland, it doesn't matter where you are, you're trespassing
Well,
on that particular property.
what they're going to do, they're going to lock them up for long enough that everybody feels sorry about. We've got Nobel laureates saying, let them go, let them go. Then they'll let them go and they'll say to the world, look, honey, that's fine. But if you come back over here and get onto our stuff, we'll lock you up. I mean,
I'll be a bit of a hypocrite here in one statement if I can. I agree. They've got the wrong cause there. We just need that oil, and they're out of line by going to that place. However, I'm a big fan of them getting on the Japanese whaling boats who are whaling outside of the approved areas and stop them slaughtering the animals.
yeah, but I mean,
I'm a bit of a fan
if you
of
get
stopping
locked up for that, don't
Yeah.
come crying to me. If you go there...
But if they don't do anything about it, who's going to stop that kind
Yeah,
of
I know,
activity?
but
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they
You've
got
got to
it.
have
It's
some
all
plaudits
very
for
well
that.
and plaudits for Africa. But then you must expect if you take those actions, if you choose to take those actions, which are actually outside international law, then the Japanese or the Russians or the North Koreans or something are going to lock you up. I mean, sorry, but I mean that and you were going to be put in. I've been reading; it fascinates me. We've had the hugest argument in my office because my Generation Y greeny hippie lawyers got really upset at me.
On what issue?
Oh, everything. They just think I'm a right winger, which is frightening when I'm with you. But I said, what do you think's going to happen? Like,
Here's an interesting statement
Russia.
here.
Like the Russians are kind of quite hardcore.
Well, they're Russians, aren't they?
I mean, they're Russians.
They're Russians.
What do they think
What
they're
do you
going to do?
expect?
Please don't go onto our oil rig.
But if they came onto a dam site in New Zealand, New Zealand police would arrest them, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I know, but we probably wouldn't lock them up, not give them bail and put them in solitary confinement.
Yeah, send them to Siberia.
We're
treatment.
Lawless. We got appalled. What did we do to her? Nothing.
She got a fine or something, didn't
Didn't we?
Didn't
The
get a fine.
people that broke into the American thing, the jury let them off. I mean,
Sean
If you're gonna
Plunkett
do it
says here, he
here.
says, in these circumstances, the faux outrage Greenpeace is now expressing around the globe can be seen only as a part of a carefully planned and
course it is.
executed campaign in which 30 jailbirds were either willing participants or unwitting pawns.
Look, the worst thing
He's
that
saying
would-
they've done it for
Of
publicity.
course I would. The worst thing that could happen is what I would have done if others are Russians. I would have just said bye. I would have picked them up, put them out, and let them go. There would have been don't you understand? There would have been no publicity. The best thing, it was extraordinary. Greenpeace said they had 30 lawyers working on it.
I saw
which
that.
I said
Yep,
was
30.
29 too many. But I mean, honestly, it's great publicity. Those awful Russians, how dare they? Oh,
Well, it's gone worldwide, hasn't it?
I don't
People
know. Greenpeace could never.
Conveniently got people from 18 countries were on the boat, so,
So if you
Do you
make a
think? Yeah,
donation,
exactly.
if you make a donation to save the whales Greenpeace-wise, you're actually paying those lawyers fees, are we?
I'll tell you, if they said there were 30 lawyers.
Yeah, it says 30
how
lawyers.
awful. They were probably all giving some of their time, but I bet they weren't all. It's a publicity thing. The Russians aren't going to keep them. The
No.
Russians will let them go after a certain amount of time, and then they'll
You've
go
got valuable
home
space in
and
their prisons.
they would have, and then they'll cry and they would
I
have
think they've
lost
got plenty of
weight.
space in their presentation.
They would have lost weight and written a book, and then everybody would,
Well, they make money out of the book. That's a very interesting point of view. And on that, we'll go to a break. Stay with us. When we come back, we're having topics of interest. See you soon. Welcome back to Newsroom. Topics of interest now. And we're going to start with you, Tom.
Yes, I was going to start with the story of the guy in Liverpool who, and it's a horrible story though, because he's ended up in prison for it. He realised the night before his wedding that he hadn't booked the venue. So he went to a phone booth, rang up the police and said there was a bomb there. And they evacuated the premises and arrested him and put him in prison for 12 months. Isn't that because he was too afraid to tell his fiancée that he'd forgotten to pay the deposit?
But now she knows.
She knows now, yep. So he's in prison for 12 months. So
Oh,
it shows
dear.
you, he probably thought it was going to be just a joke thing to get away with it. But
Yeah.
they've taken a very strong view, as they do these days with such things, and so they should, is not to be smart and think you'll get away
have
with
they
that.
bred?
No, they probably didn't. I
Have
don't
they
know.
bred yet?
No,
What
not
a
to my knowledge.
terrible match,
I don't
a
know.
dumb man and a psycho woman.
Why is she psycho?
Wow, for
I trusted
goodness.
him. They may not have had sex, according to your relationship model.
Well,
Anyway, that was a factual story
Yes.
that happened in the last 24 hours.
There's
So
no
that's
wedding, there was no venue anyway, and now he's in
correct.
jail.
Now he's in jail, yes.
And,
I
a
don't know,
big
didn't
discouragement
say
for
what
any-
the future of that relationship was,
No,
but I
no, one
suspect
would-
not very good.
One would wonder.
Yeah, not for the next 12 months
well,
anyway.
she was stupid anyway to rely upon him to do anything for a wedding.
Oh, well, you can trust some guys.
Perhaps that's
My
it.
other one,
Yes.
oh no, I'll take turns, I'll come back
that
to me.
was unfair.
Okay, right.
That was cruel. Yeah.
Over to you, Mary Jane. Tom's taking a break for his next topic.
Yep.
Right. Okay. I'm rugby. I'm so over this whole Quade Cooper booing. Have you done this on your program yet? I'm
No, I
so
haven't.
sick and tired of it, and I don't know how you stop it. But I just think it's a blight. I'm sick of booing at rugby games. I'm sick of getting into Quade Cooper, and in fact, I'm so angry about it that I was cheering for Quade Cooper. And I hate Australians, you know that, but I think he's one of us in the event.
And he played it inside the stadium too.
I thought I hate this. I thought that he played really, really well, but I don't understand what's happened to our sporting culture where we think it is in any way acceptable to boo anybody other than the ref and somebody that's... I'm sorry, I'm not going to be... we've all booed the ref. I mean, it's part of the fun, isn't it? Boo, ref. Or when, boo, send them off. Do you know what I mean? He's a head higher, he kicked somebody in the head. I'll accept that I've done on the odd occasion. Boo, send them off, But you don't. What's this booing of the guy? I just find it really tiresome and it really offends me.
The way to stop it is to not comment on it. Because what happens is that you bring focus on it, and that's the worst thing they did. I think Steve Hansen came out and said, don't do it, and then you get people said, oh, you're not going to tell me what to do, I'm going to boo, I'm going to boo. And then it keeps coming up in the media, it keeps coming up in the media. If you just said nothing, and it would have gone away in a day, but now it's a thing to do.
No, but it's
for the idiots.
moronic. It's really moronic, and it's just not acceptable. Anybody that's played sport should know that it's not acceptable.
Yeah, but
you don't boo people. You cheer your own team. You give a bit of stick. Like if I'm watching Woodlands, I'm quite happy to say, you tackle. Ooh, I missed that one. That's different. But the booing is just, it's not sportsman, and it shows that people are watching sport that haven't played sport themselves.
It's ironic that people think Canterbury crowds are boorish and boo opposition, etc. I've sat at Athletic Park in a test match. All Blacks were playing, can't recall, and Bernie McCahill, who was a controversial character at that time in Auckland, a player of modest ability, but he'd made the All Blacks. He came on and he got roundly booed by the home team. So when we sit there thinking, I'm doing it against Australians, we actually have that as a habit in our psyche over many years.
I watched once when, James Wilson. And people really liked James or didn't. And I've got to admit, he was a good kid and I've always liked him. I was standing watching a game, Woodlands Blues, where one of their own supporters, big fat guy that, and you know how some guys go to seed. He didn't even look like he'd ever played rugby, big, useless. And he was giving our own player Jippo. And I think what James had done, James is the sort of guy, he'd do a kick and it'd either come off or he'd look like a prat. And I turned to this guy and I nearly ended up having a fight with him. I said, shut up. I said, first of all, have you ever played rugby? I said, do you think the guy's trying to make a mistake? Do you mean I don't understand that.
It's got no positive outcome, has it?
But it really annoys me. Why give the guy... And it was just negative stuff, do you know what I mean?
But I bet you've seen that with parents watching 8-year-old kids.
How dare...
Oh, I have.
Yeah,
I have.
And you would have seen it, Bill.
What's wrong with
them?
Because I don't know. But it starts there. So when they get to the big stuff...
It's all role modelling.
It just goes up the chain.
Yeah, but I'm bad. I'm terrible. Everybody will tell you that I'm shocking on the sideline because I am loud. But I have never in my life... I clap both teams with little ones. You can actually support kids, and if the other kid on netball does a good thing, you say good work.
Well, you're supporting the sport.
Yeah, you're supporting the sport. This idea of getting into kids and racking them up and that, it's just... It annoys me because
far too much focus on who's going to win rather on the individuals putting the best effort in.
Because all you can ask for kids is to do their best.
That's right.
And look, I'm terribly competitive and I don't like losing. But how could you possibly be angry at children if they're giving 100%?
That's right.
If the other team's better, guess what? They're sometimes better. We've all been in situations where the other people are better than us. But this, it's like life, isn't it? You can only do the best you can do. But anyway.
And sometimes the win or the loss can tip over on the slightest thing.
Of course it can.
And suddenly the whole opinion changes. It can be a puff of wind when there's a kick being taken.
But I've been in sports teams where you come off the field in rugby particularly and you're absolutely exhausted and you sit there and you're gutted, do you know what I mean? And you're exhausted and you're dirty, but you sit there and you think to yourself, well actually, I'm exhausted. I made as many tackles as I could have. I did, and there's a difference about there's nothing worse than losing when you think you haven't given 100. But I refuse to feel bad. You know what I mean? Like kids have to learn that, like I said, you can only ask kids to give 100%.
Right.
And it's some of the silly parents, and their pedigree, that have never played sport in their life are any good. How dare they be yelling and screaming and booing at kids when they're never any good themselves?
It's actually it's a trend. It's a trend in society. We try to do a whole lot of things. We're trying to do things in schools and whatnot. We're trying to improve, kids' attitudes across the board, and it goes right through into their later life and how they behave. but in many respects you can nail it right back to role modelling by parents every time.
Yeah. Well, why is a kid going to do something if they're made out to feel as if they're hopeless?
That's right.
And you can still say to a kid, look, I've got a son particularly that needs a bit of a rack up every once in a while.
Boys
I said,
too.
You know, you haven't done your best. That's all I want you to do. Do your best. I don't expect you to be a superstar.
No.
You know,
Dr. Margaret Thompson.
You've got it.
because that's been a
Yes.
Yeah.
Had her surgery in Yarrow Street near the lights.
She was a
There we go.
nice lady.
Exactly.
She was a real.
She was worth remembering.
Yes.
She was a real.
Took a while.
Is she still alive?
I believe so. I don't know anything to the contrary.
No, but what I'm saying is she was a real corker of a. She's
She
a
was a
good
very
woman.
high
Very
polling
smart,
candidate.
an
Yeah.
extremely smart lady.
Yeah, but a good person too.
Bill, what you got?
Well,
You
I
haven't
was just
had a
going.
turn yet.
I was
You
actually
don't
just
get
going to
to miss out.
mention the new disc, which we've got a wee bit of time. The new disc that was just being produced, which can store data for 1 million years.
Oh,
So
excellent.
all the
But can
data-
it store reliably and
Yes.
not corrupt?
Yes, and it will actually, of course, you can smash anything up, I suppose. But these things have been tested in ovens heated up to about 500 degrees Kelvin, or a couple of 300 degrees Celsius for a length of time, and they're still quite stable. In fact, they say you can even heat them much hotter than that. They do lose some data. But a new type of technology, new surface on them, extremely stable way of storing data. If we want the data for 1 million years, I don't know.
But that's a major breakthrough because there is no format currently that is 100% reliable. Because what people do is they get their DVDs, the videos, and they put them on DVDs and they put them on drives. As the technology changed, thinking they've saved it on a safe environment. None of them are safe.
No.
Drives fall over on a regular basis.
That's right.
So that, if that's true and it can store it with some stability, then it's got a huge future. You won't sell
So
many of them.
whoever's invented it has actually probably invented something which won't be used to store data for 1 million years, but just to make sure that the data is secure and safe for the lifetime of that person. So quite a step forward, really. I thought it
Excellent.
quite
No,
interesting.
I think that's excellent.
We're going to go back to you now because
We
you've got
are.
another topic.
I think the Man Booker Prize win for the
Right.
luminaries, Eleanor Catton, I think her name is. It's terrible, isn't it? I think that's quite a stunning achievement, which is actually played down. It was fairly low on most news bulletins,
Yeah.
but that's not an easy thing to win. I know it's a Commonwealth prize,
Right.
plus I think Republic of Ireland and Zimbabwe or something. It's not a world thing, but it's still a lot of high. William Golding, some really good. Kerry Hume won it, of course.
Extremely well known authors.
Have
Yeah.
won that prestigious award. It's worth quite a bit of money, but it's a big status. She's the youngest ever writer, and
How
she
old is
wrote the
she?
biggest book. 36, something like
Okay,
that, mid-30s, and she wrote 850 words, The Luminaries, about a West Coast mining murder mystery.
Yeah.
But for her to have won, and she wasn't favourite, I saw on the morning of it live on the BBC, and they said that they had 2 or 3 others that were ahead of her, so it was a genuine surprise to win. Next year it's open up to the world, it'll become even harder. But it's a very, very prestigious award. And other side of the world,
And good to see those prizes still being given out for literary
books.
things, for
Yeah.
books.
Yeah.
The thought is that kids, young people and whatnot are going away from books and it's all electronic and games and whatnot. But it's not totally true because I see a lot of kids at school and they've got the book out and they're reading. Sometimes when they shouldn't be, which is jolly good.
Yeah.
So they shouldn't
That's
be
the
doing.
worst
Try to
activity
read
they're
it.
doing.
And that's the worst thing they're doing.
Yeah,
Jolly
yeah,
good. They
yeah.
still read. Some kids are still avid readers, which is a very positive thing, really.
I got told off at school once for playing chess.
For playing chess.
Now that's just it's the most
expanding your mind.
ridiculous thing. No,
Because
you
it's-
can't do that. You gotta,
When were you actually doing it, Tom?
during the science lesson.
Of course, there you
But it
go.
was-
That's his problem.
But
Couldn't be a
I
worse
think the
subject to
chess
do.
was a better brain developer than making hokey pokey toffee on a Bunsen burner.
Chess is a great game.
It is a great game.
Great
Very few
game.
people can play. Can you play?
I can play chess. Yeah.
Can you play, Mary Jane?
No, I can't.
Very
Of course I
few
can.
people. Very few people can
Oh.
play that I know of.
There was
Rubbish. Well, clearly you're not hanging around with the right people, Tom.
and they even made a musical on it, Tom.
You can play. It's not the one where you jump things. It's the one with the pawns and the king.
Oh dear, that was unfortunate.
Just to make sure I didn't get the games confused.
Exactly. Thank you for watching us today. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks' time with more discussion about the news of the world and the news locally too. We'll see you then.
That's a go.
Took it.